All right, it is 6 p.m. on this May 6, 2026. I'll call this town council work session to order. Welcome those whom are in attendance and those who are tuned in online. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Mr. Yolen? Here. Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Thank you. First item is adoption of the agenda. You have the agenda before you. If there are no changes, do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, declaration of personal interest. Does anyone have a declaration of personal interest concerning anything on the agenda this evening? Not hearing any. We'll move to the presentation by VDOT on designated growth area and East 3rd Street Smart Scale project.
Good afternoon, Council. I want to thank you all for your time today. My name is Carson Eckhart. I'm the Lynchburg District Planner with the Lynchburg District with VDOT. So there's two purposes of this presentation today. We're going to discuss the ongoing round of Smart Scale. That's round 7. There's one project currently in the pool for the town of Farmville, and that's the intersection improvement at East 3rd Street in Milnewood. And this presentation will kind of go over the background information of Smart Scale. I know there's been a couple of rounds since there's been an application for the town of Farmville, so I wanted to give you all refresher information on that project, as well as Smart Scale as a whole. No resolution or board motion needed at tonight's meeting. The plan is to do it at the next meeting if you are all comfortable with that. And then secondly, as a part of the comprehensive planning update, VDOT is recommending that the Farmville designate themselves as a designated growth area. And I'll kind of be explaining what that process is throughout this presentation and how it ties into Smart Scale. And at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. A designated growth area, also known as a DGA, is a voluntary designation for a locality that maintains their own comprehensive planning. We have a handful of DGAs in our district. Keysville, Farmville, and Alta Vista are the 3 that we are currently working on adopting at this moment. Appomattox, Halifax, and South Boston are the 3 that are currently existing. A designated growth area is first a designation, and it's completely optional for the town to designate this as a part of their comprehensive plan, and it is an avenue for localities to pursue broader options in transportation funding through the Smart Scale funding stream. And that's done through eligible VTrans needs that are unlocked as becoming a part of a DGA, which I'll explain in the next slide. And it's not an annexation of county land into the town of Farmville. It's simply a designation for this part of Farmville as well as the surrounding areas of Prince Edward County. So what is a VTrans need? VTrans midterm needs is a data set that's provided by the Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment. It's 100% free and public for you all to view. And it is a data set that describes roadway criteria and problems across the whole state of Virginia. And I have an example here. This is the intersection of 58 and 751 in Halifax County. If you can see the 2 little red squares, those needs, which are capacity preservation and safety, are marked as yes. That means during the data criteria selection during VTrans, they listed a capacity need as well as a safety need at that intersection. For those that don't know, there's a water bottling plant down on 751 that heavy trucks have to make that right turn movement, and they're currently doing that in the traveling lane on 58, which is a corridor of statewide significance. Because of that capacity preservation and safety need being marked as yes, VDOT did a study at that intersection and is recommending that right turn lane as a viable project for this round of Smart Scale. Any questions from the board?
Sorry, I'm looking here and you've got 2 things outlined in red, but the one directly above the bottom one says exactly the same thing and it's listed as no. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, so if that is the safety marker, there is a segment safety and an intersection safety. So it marks that segment of 58 past the intersection down 58 as a yes, but not the intersection itself. I understand it's confusing, but they capture specific crashes at the intersection, and if there is a substantial amount at the intersection, they mark that as yes, but if it goes down the segment, they mark the segment as yes.
But they do say exactly the same thing. My eyes aren't. Thank you.
And if it's done as a segment, then that means it covers the intersection as well in
Correct.
this particular situation?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know where to interject a question, but when everybody was at the Moton Museum and we were talking about this, one of the requests that I'd had and one of the requests that had been brought to me was to add additional sidewalk on both sides of the street, and a crosswalk, at least a crosswalk across Millwood. And I'm not sure whether has been considered or not. I mean, there's a lot of sidewalk on both sides of the street. There are some blank spaces on the south side of East Third. But, you know, if this is being done and we're fixing the road, we might as well fix the sidewalk on that side as well. And I didn't know whether that change is going to be added or not.
Currently not for this application of Smart Scale, no, but I'm going to explain it on the next slide. I'll actually go to the next slide now. If the town were to become a designated growth area, all of these needs on screen here will be marked as yes, meaning that if the locality wants to pursue any type of multimodal improvement in the town, they could use those needs and submit that part in that application. So if we wanted to look at a sidewalk down Millwood Road, that is a part we can include as in the application as a part of being a DGA.
So, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is this is set and this can't be changed at all? Because, I mean, if we're doing the work, that's my point, is if we're doing the work and we're fixing the road, it would cost an exorbitant amount of money. And I say that, I don't think it would be an exorbitant amount, but it's going to cost a lot more to come back and add that sidewalk in later than it would be to go ahead and put it in this project right now.
We can take a look at that internally. We can go and look and see if there's feasibility in adding sidewalks on the other part of Millwood Road and 3rd Street, you said?
But just on 3rd Street to get you down 3rd Street and down 3rd Street and around this side, because
Okay.
there's sidewalk here and there's lots of sidewalk through this area going into town, but then it just ends and there's nothing and there's no crosswalk. And across the front of Gann Insurance, you know, adding a piece of sidewalk there would increase safety in that area for the long-term future.
We can take a look at that as a part of the application. We can go back and look at that sketch and see if we can add crosswalk and sidewalk on the other side.
So the designation, I understand you say that it would be for Farmville and parts of the county. Does that mean the county supervisors would have to?
They
Go
already
along with that, too?
they already voted on their comprehensive plan to add their parts of the county as a designated growth area. It goes down from Old Ridge Road up Zion, connecting back into the town at Germantown. So it kind of adds a kind of southern buffer of the town of Farmville.
So we had a conversation prior about urban
It's a designated growth area,
I know, but the prior term was urban
urban development area, yes.
development area. So all it really did was change the name from urban development area to designated growth area, that we already had the conversation about. So this isn't anything new. It's just a different name for the same thing. I thought I cleared that up a little bit.
Correct. Yeah. Any question on these needs that'll be activated as being a part of a designated growth area? It adds some flexibility to what the town can submit for Smart Scale in future rounds. I know y'all just recently completed a sidewalk assessment across the town, and those areas that have those sidewalk deficiencies, if you were to become a DGA, you could submit those sidewalk repair projects as a part of Smart Scale, bringing it up to ADA standards.
And I'm not asking for the sidewalk, it's just me. I know it's kind of an agreeable thing that we all have to agree on, so
He's
don't know
going to
what-
touch on that at the end. That's the last part of the presentation.
I wanted to highlight a locality success story using this designated growth area. So as I mentioned before, the town of Halifax was designated as a DGA in previous rounds of Smart Scale, and they submitted a sidewalk improvement project from 501 to Mountain Lane, and they used those needs that are highlighted in the slide there: pedestrian infrastructure, roadway capacity, as well as safety features and sidewalks. The only way they were going to be able to submit that if they weren't is if they had pedestrian safety issues at that intersection, meaning people would have had to have been hit and or injured or killed at that segment to substantiate the need for sidewalks at that project. So it allows us to kind of circumvent that safety need and allow them to submit these low-cost improvement projects within their town and apply for funding. I just wanted to highlight a way a locality has used that to push multimodal improvements in their locality that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Can you explain the environment traffic calming? What is the term for that? What does that mean?
So those are VTrans midterm needs that are activated as being a DGA. And in the application, you're able to justify how those needs are being met as a part of this application. So the crosswalks and the sidewalk is itself some traffic calming, and they justified that in the application. And the green space that's added as a part of the application they use for the environmental section in the Smart Scale application. So looking at next steps for the DGA, currently we have to amend the comprehensive plan for it to be, for us to go to the next step, which is where the Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment will review the designated growth area materials, and then that material will be reviewed by OIPI, and then they will go through the next VTrans update, and they will add the town of Farmville as a designated growth area. And then VDOT will study areas to address needs using the DGA, and then the town will apply for project funding through Smart Scale.
So
Yes.
just for you all to know that'll be part of the revamped transportation section of the comprehensive plan.
What's the timeline for going through all these steps here up to step 6?
So up to step 3, that is when the comp plan is being amended, and then step 4 is 4, 5, and 6. That'll be done at a future date. The next round of Smart Scale, round 8, starts in 2028. So it'll be done before that time period. There will be studies that are done to address these multimodal needs within the town. So I've been talking about Smart Scale a lot, and so I'm going to give some background context to what the funding stream is. Smart Scale is an even year funding program that's maintained by the Office of Intermodal Planning and Investment, and its goal is to fund the right transportation projects with as small of a budget as possible. No locality match is required for Smart Scale, unlike a TAP and a revenue sharing, which is a 20% and 50% match respectively. However, leverage funding is always recommended if there are grants that can be used to buy down application costs that'll raise your score in Smart Scale. And Smart Scale projects are selected through a data-driven competitive scoring process. Some of the projects that are allowed on the side over there, multimodal improvements, safety, operational, and transit improvements, and some projects that are not allowed would be your maintenance projects as well as bridge rehabilitation. So some prerequisites for a Smart Scale application. That first block there, the project needs to address a midterm need. It needs to be done through an MPO, PDC, or VDOT study, or as well as a locality study, and VDOT needs to be kept in through the loop throughout that process. Normally we do support our projects, but it's good that VDOT is kept in the loop throughout that study process, as well as a sketch, cost estimate, and a resolution of support. There are 2 primary funding pots for Smart Scale. You have your district grant, and then you have your high priority. District grant is going to be your district-wide competition. It's primarily meant for your smaller scale projects. You'll be competing with other localities in our district, and then statewide high priority is where you compete at a statewide level. Your HPP pot is going to have more rigorous needs or criteria to be selected. It needs to be on a corridor, statewide significance, or regional network, and it needs to have a VDOT study to support the alternative there. And then there's 2 stages of the application process. It's a pre-app, full-app split. Your pre-application started in March of this year and ran until April. We're currently in the pre-screening part where the Office of Intermodal Planning, in collaboration with VDOT and DRPT, screen all of our applications. And then full application opens up June 1st of this year. Pre-app is where your preliminary information is put into the application, and full app is where those materials are refined, finalized, and included in the application.
If you're not selected, what happens the next go-round?
You can submit that same project the next round of Smart Scale. You can keep submitting it until the project is, you have a 10-year time limit on that study. So the 3rd Street study was just finished this year. You'll have until 2036 until you can't submit that project anymore.
Thank you.
Just like the county has submitted for the interchange twice, I believe.
Yes.
And got denied both times, but you can continue to try. And this is the goal, to help that along the way.
So this is your smart scale schedule here. So we are currently in that May timeframe, which is that pre-screening period. Full application opens up in June, and we'll be coordinating with the locality on refining those pre-application materials. And the goal is to get that resolution of support no later than July 15th. And then you can see here in the odd year, even when the application period is done, smart scale is never really over. We're still planning for that next round of smart scale even now. We're starting our criteria of selecting our next areas for study, and that will feed into round 8 of smart scale in 2028. So it's always a churning wheel of getting projects to be studied, and then problems rise up, and then we submit those projects for smart scale. And then we do the same thing in round 8 for round 9. And it's a revolving wheel. So we're going to discuss the scoring process for smart scale now. You can see the criteria for smart scale there. I really want to highlight the safety and economic development. Those are the two primary categories that Lynchburg District focuses on our applications. I'll explain that in the next slide here. Every MPO and PDC gets to determine their factor weighing for smart scale. That determines which values are rated the highest in the smart scale system. So you can see the CRC has denoted category D, which has your highest emphasis in safety and economic development. So that kind of forces us to look at those issues the most when it comes to project selection.
And Carson, so I would guess the reason for that is we wouldn't want to be an A. I'm assuming that's like Northern Virginia for
Correct.
highest being congestion mitigation.
I'm going to go back to that map there. You can see that Hampton roads in Northern Virginia are those category A's. Richmond and Fredericksburg, Charlottesville are going to be your category B's, and most of the rural MPOs and PDCs are category D. So it's going to be more for your rural type locality. So I wanted to go over some previous rounds of Smart Scale. Farmville's been very successful in getting Smart Scale funding for your locality. Over the past 7 rounds of Smart Scale, 3 projects have been selected for funding in the town of Farmville, totaling about $26 million in project funding. That includes your roundabout that's going right up the street, as well as your intersection improvements right down the street, and the other intersection improvements down the street. So the town has been very successful in getting smart scale funding, and we want to continue this strategy by trying to game the game as much as possible. And that's why we're recommending the DGA designation, as well as trying to get the roundabout project in at Millenwood, and then with the end goal, getting that interchange full access.
Mr. Eckhart, on a
Yes.
very basic level, because a lot of times these projects pop up and these public hearings arise, and we'll hear from citizens who will say, it's a waste of taxpayer money, or why is the town spending all this money on this? Can you clarify where does the money come from to pay for these projects?
So it's state-funded project, so it comes from the state. There's no federal funds involved, and it's there's no match requirement for smart scale, so the town isn't putting any money in, and it's state-funded. That comes from VDOT's construction budget.
And so we don't put any applications in, and we just don't receive money, but that money does get spent somewhere else.
Yes, it'll get spent in our district or on a statewide level through the high priority pod. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
So last round of smart scale, for instance, we got 4 projects funded, 2 of them in Campbell County, 1 in Nelson, and 1 in Pennsylvania County. So that money does get spent until there's nothing left to fund projects. So this is the application for this round of smart scale, and it's the roundabout at 3rd Street and Millenwood. It's to convert the intersection into a hybrid roundabout. I know hybrid roundabouts can be a little controversial, especially in our parts of Virginia. So that's why during the study process, which is all this is available on the VDOT website, we did some video simulations of the hybrid roundabout through our public involvement. If you were there at the Moton Museum, you saw the simulation that was just running on repeat the whole entire time. And that's available on the website for you all to see for your viewing pleasure. This project targets the safety improvement on a corridor of statewide significance. That 460 business corridor is listed as a COSS on our system, and it also has the improved access to the economic development area. There's an economic development site up Persimmon Tree Fork Road, and the idea is to help with your access to that economic development site and to help support the interchange down the road. Any questions on this project?
And so we did have it open to the public, as you said, at the Moton Museum for input. And then you all agreed to move, it was two concepts. You all agreed to move this concept forward instead of the other, which was just somewhat small upgrade to the current intersection. But long-term, it wouldn't help for the interchange coming. And so now this is the project that we're moving forward with, and they need a resolution like we have in the past that Carson has said on these other projects for it to go into the smart scale that council's in agreement. And we're looking to bring that resolution to you next week.
I guess this is where is it? That's why I'm saying if we're coming with a resolution next week. Is it going to be just exactly like this, or can they make changes to it between now and it getting submitted? I mean, this was months ago that we had the meeting at the Moton, and those concerns were addressed, and it hadn't changed. Is it something they couldn't change because it's? I don't know what the rules are.
Carson, if I remember correctly, the reason that it's not on this side is it wasn't any that were immediately adjacent to connect with.
I believe that was discussed, yes. Yeah, there was, the reason why we wanted to connect on the other side is to connect up to that Sunchase development there and connect into the movie theater, as well as the two hotels and Sunchase, the apartment complex.
And oddly enough, now there will be a sidewalk to connect it to, because Dominion has to put a sidewalk in front of their office, which kind of stinks. That, not that they have to, but that it's not. Right, I get that. I just curious if it can be fixed while we're doing.
And we can go back internally, and now that things have changed, we can look to see if we can connect those two sidewalks up, because you were right, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make much sense for there to be a missing linkage between the two sidewalks and the crossing there. And as a part of our analysis, we might need those crosswalks anyway on all the legs of the roundabout anyway.
And I think his question also is, but even when the application goes in, if something seems that it's deemed that it needs to be added, it can be added to the project after, when it's going through the process.
There's some flexibility in the design period. If there's a design criteria that comes up that we might need to make some small changes, we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But we can see if we can add that sidewalk part now to connect those two linkages up together. We can look to see.
I believe we've experienced some changes to the roundabout at the top of the hill here.
Correct.
Through the process. Right, when it goes to design.
So there's always that room for change, and we want to make sure it's a little as flexible as it can be using state dollars. And that's a full kind of stretched out image of the sketch, because the other one was a little condensed. It does include those roundabout and ahead signs at each leg of the intersection, so that when people are coming up 3rd Street or Persimmon, they will see the roundabout sign, and they'll be able to kind of slow down a little bit up to the yield condition. So I did want to make a note of that.
Is there a reason why they're not flashing?
That's a little out of my wheelhouse. I can go back and check and see why we don't have flashers for roundabouts. I can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
That would be really helpful in some situations. We were just discussing this, and it's not necessarily you want to put them in neighborhoods, but places that are more industrial might be a little more helpful, particularly because when you're coming east on 3rd Street, you're kind of coming up that hill, and just giving people a little bit more time might be beneficial.
I'll get back to you all with some guidance next week on if we can include those flashers. And as I mentioned here, that second dot there has the link to the STARS website. On that website, there's a photo and video section at the bottom where you can see the video simulation of the hybrid roundabout, and it goes through all the major legs of the intersection for those that are confused on how to traverse through a hybrid roundabout, because it can be a little confusing at times from someone who takes them kind of frequently in Lynchburg. I got to stop a little bit every time I go through a hybrid just to make sure I'm doing the right movement. And as I mentioned, no resolution or motion is needed at tonight's meeting, but I hope to be back next week with, to help make a final determination on resolution of support. And there's my email if you all have any questions. Any final questions?
Any final questions for Mr. Eckhart? Thank you, Mr. Eckhart. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you all for your time. As someone who lived in Sunchase, I think you're all doing a great job in the town. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, that's nice. We don't always get that. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the finance report. Ms. Julie Moore.
Good evening. You have the March financial reports that represent 9 months of activity for fiscal year '26. The total revenue across all funds was approximately $33.8 million year-to-date compared to the annual budget of approximately $49.4 million. Revenue remains generally in line with expectations at this point in the fiscal year. As discussed previously, overall revenues totals continue to be impacted by one-time items such as the bond proceeds and planned use of prior year fund balance and reserves, which are reflected in the budget under other sources but are not reoccurring operating revenue. The general fund revenue totals approximately $27.4 million year-to-date, and major revenue categories, including taxes and license, food, lodging, and permit and fees, continue to perform generally in line with expectations, with business license revenue already at approximately 97% of the budget at the end of March. Total expenditures across all funds are $21.9 million year-to-date, which remains well below the 9-month benchmark of $37.1. Several expenditure variances continue to be related to timing differences in planned capital projects, such as the new ladder truck that was purchased, the 3rd Street paving and the street maintenance fund, and the UV treatment equipment in the sewer fund. Additionally, some projects budgeted for fiscal year '26, including the construction activity of the new firehouse, has not started, which continues to keep expenditures below the benchmark level at this point of the year. Overall, the town financial position remains stable through the first 9 months of the fiscal year. Revenue continues to track within expected ranges, and expenditures are below budget. And that's it.
Any questions for Ms. Moore at this time? Not hearing any.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Next item on the agenda is discussion. An oldie but a goodie. Sidewalk draft ordinance. Do we have any updates, Mr. Davis?
Yes, so 2 things that we were going to bring back to you before I guess we start discussing the actual ordinance itself. You have before you, there was a question about the ability for staff to have some leadway if there's like topographical issues with the land and other issues. In the subdivision ordinance that I've printed out for you, there is some leadway upon staff based on those issues when you are subdividing the land, of whether you have to do certain things or not that's in the code based on the topography. And then the other was about concrete versus asphalt, especially regarding multi-use paths. And so I'm not even going to attempt, I'm just going to let Mr. Edwards share some information that he has on that particular topic.
Good evening, council. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background between the cost, maintenance, and longevity of sidewalks, whether it's concrete or asphalt. As you know, asphalt is a much cheaper material when you look at it based off upfront cost. But when you're looking at construction of like a sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk, typically you're looking at, for linear footage wise, if you were constructing a sidewalk based off of the base, grading, all that stuff, you're looking at anywhere, an average cost range around $35 to $100 per linear foot, depending on what's required for it. When you get into like a 10-foot multi-use trail, Your ranges can be anywhere from $30 to $75 plus, depending on, once again, you're looking at the cost of what it would be to grade it out. It is a much larger footprint. Sometimes your trails can be more expensive than your concrete sidewalks, depending on what's required, whether it's drainage, features you need, bridges going over ravines. Then you're getting into even more higher ranges. When you look at your lifespan of these things, the average span of a 10-foot multi-use trail is approximately 15 to 20 years, where a sidewalk is about 30 to 50 years. You also have some issues with maintenance when it comes to asphalt. For a good example is every 2 to 3 years, asphalt requires you to seal it. It includes parking lots, anything, but an asphalt trail you're looking at every 2 to 3 years. That's about 50 cents per square foot to seal. So if you're looking at like a half-mile trail every 2 to 3 years, you're looking at roughly $13,000 every 2 to 3 years. And for the life of that, you're looking at almost $100,000 to seal this thing to the end. Every time you go out there and inspect it, you have to inspect it regularly to make sure there's no cracks in it. So crack sealing is about $2 a linear foot to put on this. So there's no telling how much you would spend based off of that. It can be thousands of dollars just to crack seal it, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's like the little thing that looks like lines in the road.
Right. So then you've got to look at pothole repairs. If a pothole generates in this thing, you're looking at about $35 a pothole to fix, because you've got to cut it out, get it straight, fill it back in. For every 6 to 7 years, you need to resurface that. So resurfacing it is about $3 a square foot. So in about 6 to 7 years, you're looking at about $79,000 to resurface a half a mile, a little over $79,000 to resurface a mile. The Public Works Department having to maintain a trail is a little difficult. We do have like a small roller. A lot of this stuff we had to do by hand when it comes to asphalt. We only have like a pickup truck or a small dump truck we can put it in. We got to put it by hand. We don't have the nice spreaders. It's time consuming. The trails are 10 foot, but they require you to have a larger path to get through so you can get equipment through it. Whereas sidewalk, as we get back to go into sidewalk, like I said, you're looking at 30 to 50 years of longevity. Anything that happens to it repair-wise, you're looking at $50 to $300 for repairing a section. And that's a simple thing for us to pull up, remove from joint to joint the messed up piece, even if it's curb and gutter, set our forms, pack the base, call the concrete truck in, pour the concrete, smooth it out, and let it cure. Like I said, upfront cost is a little bit more expensive for a sidewalk most of the time, but the longevity of an asphalt is going to cost you more in the long run. The maintenance of it is the problematic issue that we run into. We're able to maintain both. It's just sidewalks are a little bit easier for us to maintain than the asphalt side of things. Once again, you also have to look at mowing grass along the vegetation side. We have to look at trees falling on it, keeping vegetation out, watching for standing water, because standing water will undermine the base of the sidewalk, of the asphalt. Just there's different things that we have to do, so we have to be more diligent on inspections for asphalt walkways. Got any questions?
Doesn't sound like it. Thank you.
All right.
Any additional information, Mr. Davis?
We just need guidance for the planning commission of if there's any changes to this, or if you want to move forward with this or anything like that. That comes down to discussion for you all.
Any discussion concerning the ordinance as it is? It's gone back and forth a fair bit.
I had a good long sit down with John Miller the other night just to discuss my thoughts and my concerns, and he addressed everything very, very well. And I think it's not going to be perfect. I don't think it's ever going to be absolutely perfect. But I think it's really, really good where it is right now, based on our conversation.
And I'm sorry, Stephen, I should have asked you this before you sat down. When it comes to the VDOT funding that the town gets for upkeep and repairs, sidewalks, roads, and apparently there's some available for the multi-use path as well. Do they take into consideration the additional funding you need to take care of it over the long run? Or is there a percentage base they jack up a little bit more to give you more funds for multi-use paths?
So the multi-use paths would have to be tied to the roadway, in essence, to use those street maintenance funds.
So we would have to be able to leave a roadway, like, can you think of an example anywhere around town? Is it?
No, because we don't have any,
Like,
we have sidewalks.
I
So-
noticed the Wilkes Lake and the
But those are trails, actual trails, but they don't we can't use that for street maintenance funds, for walking trails.
Are you saying the multi-use that's tied to a street are like you have 2 lanes and then right beside it you have a bike path? Is that kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, it
Or
would have to be
something
tied
like
to
that?
it would have to be tied to the roadway itself to use street maintenance funds. So if they're talking about a multi-use path in the neighborhood instead of a sidewalk, then I would say, without looking in the manual, but it should be able to be used for maintenance funds. Because it would be next to the roadway as part of that segment.
But not taking into account the additional costs of maintaining a multi-use path over the long run, I'm talking about.
So, yeah, I mean, the street maintenance funds is for the maintenance, so yes. If we had to do those maintenance to it, then we can use the street maintenance funds, just like we do for sidewalks.
Any additional discussion on sidewalks? So everybody, Ms. Amos?
In light of Stephen's message, are we going to leave the multi-use in there with the cost?
I mean, I want to give people the opportunity to build and to build to their, what's going to help them, encourage them to build. A lower cost option would certainly help in that situation where people were developing things. It's hard not to pay attention to the cost difference over the long run. That's my 2 cents.
How do we get an increase on our funding from VDOT when we do add those paths?
Funding is actually based on lane miles. Has nothing to do with sidewalks. It's all about lane miles of the roadway.
So this wouldn't be no effect at all.
No, adding sidewalks and all that, it's strictly about lane miles.
So regardless whether it was a concrete sidewalk or a multi-use path, the funding stays the same because of the mileage of the road itself.
Who gets to decide again whether it's a sidewalk or a multi-use path? Is there a direction that
It's in the ordinance, it says a multi-use path may be constructed on one side of the street in lieu of sidewalks when required on both sides of a new public right-of-way. Multi-use paths along streets shall have a preferred minimum width of 10 feet, though a minimum width of 8 feet may be approved by a subdivision agent. So they have a choice, correct?
They have the choice, the developer has the choice.
Right, you're giving the developer the choice. Now, if, somebody creates a development on one side of the street as a sidewalk, on the other side is a multi-use trail, and people are like, I don't want to live there. Well, then that's a choice that has been made by the developer, and
So,
therefore,
in essence, in other words, let's say they're going to tie this multi-use path into obviously an existing sidewalk, right? So they've got to factor in when they're building this, though, to meet all the ADA requirements of whether they have to change the existing sidewalk to slope differently or whatever else to match whatever that requirement is to meet that difference in the path itself. Because it'll be much lower, typically, I would imagine, than the sidewalk is.
So I just thought of something is, does it need to say something along the lines of it can't switch from one to the other and back again? You know what I mean? So somebody goes sidewalk here and then all of a sudden they switch it to a path. I'm just curious, do we need to be that? Or is that something that
But
staff will make sure doesn't?
I don't know that, back to what you said, I don't know that you can cover every single thing. So
right.
if somebody buys 5 lots and then, or divides a lot into 5 lots and they decide the path, and the next group, let's say there's more open land, and they do another 5, I mean, I don't know that we can make them do the same, the same as the previous did, because they have the option.
Right, by giving the option, you could potentially have somebody buy a section, do the multimodal, the next person down the line buys and does a sidewalk, and now you've got an issue. And that issue just continues to be exacerbated based off the option available.
So the bottom line is the path concept saves money for the developer, but for the long term, it's going to increase the obligation of the town. Is that kind of in a nutshell?
Typically, though, what this offers in my brain is somebody that's actually doing a full neighborhood, right? Let's say a huge subdivision of homes. They're going to develop those homes and decide, we want multi-use paths throughout the whole, let's say it's, I'm going to use one that comes to the top of my mind. I mean, they have sidewalks. Let's say Magnolia Green and Chesterfield, right? This huge development. They would have decided in their master plan, we're going to have multi-use paths and not sidewalks, is what I envision this being. It doesn't say that, but that would be my take on it. So when you're developing a huge development or somewhat sizable development, and you're putting in sidewalks on multiple streets, or are you going to use multi-use paths? I think that's really what you should, it should look at is for a development of that type. But the way it is, yes, somebody could still do that if they divided 5 and then another 5 and did sidewalk.
I think if your argument is, which was originally that this was an effort to be flexible with certain developers, you're offering the option. The option is available. The market will decide whether or not it wants multimodal trails versus, or multimodal paths versus sidewalks.
And there was my thought, that was, if a developer came in and put multimodal in one spot and somebody else put a sidewalk, it's going to be harder to sell. So I think the developers are going to be smart enough to do what's best for them to be able to sell it, and not necessarily what's the cheapest.
I mean, I think as it sits, it's fine the way it's.
I like it. I like it.
So everybody okay with it going to planning commission, back to them as is? All right, looks like a consensus there.
So Mayor, just
Yes, sir.
for general knowledge, it'll go back to them. They'll have a public hearing in June, and then you would have a public hearing in July, and it would become,
And then this era will come to a close.
yep, and we'll block out the old, put in the new.
10-4, all right. Next item up for discussion is alley and right-of-way abandonment, Winoke Park section subdivision on Buffalo Lane, ordinance 245. Mr. Davis.
I'm gonna let Ms. Austin describe this for you.
Good evening. So the applicant has purchased 17 of the parcels from the Winoke Park Section 1 subdivision, as well as the 10-acre parcel to the west of the subdivision. He's seeking to abandon the 20-foot alley between the lots on the west side of Buffalo Lane and the 10-acre parcel, as well as a 50-foot unopened right-of-way between lots 14 and 15. Department of Community Development sees no reason not to improve the ordinance for abandonment of this alley and unopened street right away. But if you have any questions, I can answer.
Ashley, is that in the floodplain at all down there?
It is, yes.
So would they be able to develop it and build on it in being in a floodplain?
Certain areas, they can. There are maybe a few of the parcels at the front of the subdivision that are in the floodway and will not be able to be developed. But anything that's in a special flood hazard area, as long as they meet the ordinance, can be developed.
So we have guidelines in place for that as far as if they decide to build?
We do,
on-
yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
The federal government provides those for us.
We approved that ordinance 2 years ago with the updates to the FEMA maps.
I would like to think that common sense would prevail.
Any additional questions on the abandonment? Not here, nay. Thank you, Ms. Austin.
And just, so that's for public hearing next week.
Public hearing next week. Next item up is discussion proposed FY 2026-2027 town budget and capital improvement plan. Any additional intro there, Mr. Davis?
No, just one last chance for anybody to ask any questions or concerns about the budget or the 5-year capital improvement plan.
I have questions, and I think they're minor, but I want to see. In this proposed capital improvement program, there are multiple pages that are duplicates. I'm assuming that they are not all factored into the total cost of the capital improvement programs for each year. I can give you 3 or 4 different duplications of the same pages that are being used as far as for the capital improvement plan.
Sure.
12, 13, and 14 to start.
There are, I think, what I'm guessing is just duplications and not physical. No, they're same fiscal years.
No, 12, 13, and 14 are different fiscal years.
Yes, but not the ones that I'm talking about.
I was going to say, yeah, because if you look at the top, it has fiscal year.
Page 9 and page 12 are identical.
9.
9 and 12.
Yeah, 9, 10, 11 are exactly the same as 12, 13, 14. And then I think it was 39 is the same as 40.
I see what you're saying. We duplicated the information.
Out of order. But I'm assuming.
No, we should have they shouldn't be
Right.
2 26, 27s.
Right.
Yes.
But what
I see what you're saying.
my concern is to make sure that was not being counted towards the total cost.
No. That's
I
a
just-
different formula.
I'm trying to pay attention.
Yep.
In light of what we have done this year with our budget and the challenges that we have had in our budgets and the constraints and the concessions that we've made in order to balance our budget, do you not think that it would not be wise of us to sit down and go through this thing and try to make sure that we don't have these same challenges again in future years, so that we can be closer to having a balanced budget and not adopting these capital improvement plans without having the finances to be able to follow through with them?
The difference in the budget in this is it's a plan. So if we get to that year and we don't have the funding, then we push it off. But if we don't plan for them ahead of time, as far as saying these are needs, then we're not doing ourselves justice of coming up the year prior and saying, all right, we want to do this. This is an outlook of saying, this is our goal to get to do these capital improvement items in these years, it doesn't mean that we're gonna have all the funding in order to accomplish those.
The recreation building's been in there since I've been on council. It just keeps
just a
moving,
guy.
moving down the line. It's nice to think about, and it's certainly like, I'm like, all right, if as long as it's in there, somebody may be hunting for grant money or ways to make it happen. But if it's not there, nobody's ever going to look for ways to make it happen. It doesn't hold us to making it happen by any stretch.
And it still has to come back to Scott putting it in the budget and we're approving it. So it's, once again, it's for something for us to look forward to, but there's nothing guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be right to look forward to say, we need this and this, or that's a need, this one's a priority, so if we're gonna push one off, but we've got to plan ahead of time instead of from year to year to year.
I just noticed that in this, that our needs along with what our wants are, I think in my mind, we should be paying more attention to our needs more than our wants, and then letting our wants fall last, unfortunately, because we do need to be prioritizing our funding towards our needs and not our wants. I'm just trying to pave a way. No pun intended.
I don't think it really matters much, but editing and things that don't match, I don't think it's super important in this, but, and I'll catch you after on that, no big deal. And I'm totally in agreement with Mr. Parrott. I would love to see us get to a point where we are putting money aside for, and I'm just going to I'm on this particular page, 28, 29, the backhoe for 260 on page 34. I'm just happen to be on that page, and I'm just using that as an example. Instead of us going and borrowing money for a dump truck or a backhoe or whatever, if we can put money aside and have it set aside where we actually are paying ourselves back for it as opposed to paying interest to someone else. That's just where I would love to see us get to a point where we've got enough money set aside to buy some of these capital improvement project items without having to borrow money for them. That's my 2 cents on that, to tag on to what he was saying.
Any additional discussion at this time? Not hearing any. Mr. Davis, Town Manager's report.
No, I'll have it for you next week.
Go around the table. Mr. Hardy?
Yeah, I don't know how we would bring this one up, but we were all sent an email about some other signage that needs to be addressed. Is that something we can talk about for the shopping center that came from Nikki Shoulder? Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, y'all are gonna be, remember, y'all are supposed to be giving me topics that you want to talk about to change when we start after the comp plan's done, of changing the zoning ordinance. So that's a perfect one.
When would you like to have those submitted to you?
Sooner the better, so we can get started in as soon as the comp plan's finished.
I will say that on this one is a little more, I'm not trying to push. This one is a little more time sensitive, because as was said in the email, there is an anchor store that is interested, and a contract for that has to be done in a certain time frame. And if this isn't fixed in that time frame, then they have sign requirements. And if it's not fixed in that time frame, then we lose out. And I would love to see us see if we can fix that before then, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bigger topic than just changing it for one entity, because it affects a whole district. So I don't know how we fix it for just right now for what that need is, when you gotta look at what do you want that whole section of Main Street to look like.
And I
And the
understand,
sizes and those.
and I understand that as far as signs and everything, and I'm just saying that I don't want this to get put off until too long and then we lose out on something that would be really great. I had one of my constituents say, what am I doing to bring businesses to town? And this is me sitting here trying to do what I can to help bring a business to town. And I think it would be a really great thing. And I realize we have to look at all of it, but I'm asking that if we can look at all of it sooner than later, because, you know, this is one thing, and I realize that this is not just fixing it for one person, but there are not many shopping centers in town, but if there was a separate piece in the sign ordinance for shopping centers and then we address, I'm not saying fix that one thing now, but would need a separate piece in there for shopping centers, because shopping centers need a little bit different, I don't want to say leeway, but little different signage, because they're have so many more tenants than if you've got one Chipotle or one KFC or one, you know, Walmart or whatever. It's one sign, and but when you're dealing with several different tenants, it needs to have kind of its own entity, so to speak.
I hear what you're saying. I just want to address what I think is important, is that this would have to go through the proper channels, and that takes a little bit of time. This is a situation where we're kind of stuck with what we have, and we can push in the direction to go towards what we want, but we can't be changing the rules for one place, even though it would be a great economic opportunity, because the next thing that's going to happen is their neighbors are going to request, and their neighbors are going to request, and we have to have a cohesive plan that everyone agrees on.
So you're talking planning commission hearings and that type of thing?
Right, and I get that, and that's what I understand, but if we're working on if it has to wait for the comprehensive plan to be finished, the comp plan could be next year sometime before it could be. I'm just saying, it could be the end of this year or first, and then we work on zoning, and now we're into sometime next year and trying to get these things done, and even though I agree, I understand what Mr. Yolen is saying, and I agree wholeheartedly, I just, you know, I hate to see it have to wait 8-10 months to a year before we address the issue.
I understand. I don't think we have to wait that long. I think if council up here has a consensus that they want to address the sign ordinance with a little bit more urgency, then we can discuss that over the course of this next week and formulate a plan to do so. The comp plan's not going to take that long.
I was getting ready to say a time frame. I mean, as soon as they have 2 more sections to finish reviewing.
We do a review in May for transportation implementation. The plan is to get it to public hearing for planning commission in June and to council in July for approval.
So the goal was to start in July with council on beginning, but I need your information. What sections do you want to look at? And then we have that conversation in these meetings, work sessions. We send that to the planning commission to have that, or we can try that whole joint thing again. But I'm a little hesitant. I think it may be better for council to say, what they're looking for and then taking it for them to consider and bring back their feedback to you, I think that would be maybe a little bit better. But the key is I gotta have, what do you really, I mean, the zoning ordinance is a monster of a chapter. So what are we gonna pick apart? And, you know, I threw out some things the last time of, we hear signs a lot and we hear lot sizes a lot. So those are the main two things that I know of off the top of my head that need some altering and changes. So that's already on the radar. It's a matter of what else can you think of that you, when you go through it, that needs changes?
And I
So that
think,
we can have that discussion.
I think as long as we convey to this individual that the process is in play and that we are going to be addressing the sign ordinance, that gives them some confidence that things are moving in a direction.
Sooner than later, yes. So that means a lot, yes.
Mr. Hunter?
I have nothing.
Mr. Yolen?
All good, thank you.
Mr. Parrott?
I'm just pleased that the paving is, for the most part, behind us, that I can tell. It's been an interesting process. I think it's been done very nicely. There have been some challenges, but I'm very appreciative of the blacktops and the new roads, and hopefully lead to some markings of some streets relatively quick. And I thank everybody for being congenial and trying to work with us.
I'll just add Millwood, which is the largest, other than Third Street, that needs marking. We're gonna do that on a Sunday like we do downtown when we refresh the paint. We're gonna, because it's less traffic traditionally. So we have to find time when it's not being used as much.
So if we get a heads up, people can account for their extra commute to church on that day. Mr. Dwyer?
Yeah, I was talking to a downtown resident today, and this person, due to their proximity, does a lot of walking their dog out on the High Bridge Trail. And this person had seen a town, member of the town staff, and just mentioned to them about how much, being blunt, how much dog poop there is on the trail. And what can be done about it, and this person told her, this is all hearsay, mind you, however, that the town may have extra stations for bags and drop off, you might say, like on First Avenue. Her thought was, I mean, it might be a good thought, if we had some that are just sitting there waiting for use, to see if it's possible to put one somewhere down in the plaza area that would be beneficial to those around the trail, just as an incentive to do better.
I can contact Daniel Jordan because the trail and a certain portion off of it is their property. It's not a
But
town.
even if it, somewhere it's on our property, would be in that area, something that they could grab a bag and,
Like another one of those baggy stations.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, I have a few residents that's complaining about trash cans being left on the sidewalk longer than they're supposed to, and vacant property that's being unkept for a certain length of time. I don't know what we can really do about it. I talked to Ashley about it, and she said, a letter have to go out?
We've sent letters to the unkept properties, and then they have a certain number of days to comply.
So what happens in that time frame?
They have the time frame to rectify the issue, and if they don't, then we send a contractor to go cut their grass, and we bill them.
Okay, because it's been a couple of houses, it's been a while since they did any maintenance to it, so, you know, that's it.
Ms. Amos?
Blacktop does look good. Looks really good. Thank you.
I don't have much. I'll be brief. I noticed that we have another new business on Main Street. Bamboo Cafe just opened up right across from the courthouse. So it's been pretty nice. We've got Cupcakes Shop relatively recently, Bamboo Cafe, Savor Restaurant, Farmville Mercantile Store, Persimmon Market and Eatery, Fox and Lamb. Like downtown feels like there's a lot of movement down there and a lot of good eating and a lot of good shopping. And so we are thankful for all the enterprising entrepreneurs who are out there making sure that our downtown is an eclectic, fun place to visit. And that's just my shiny, happy finish to the week. Mr. Yolen, will you read us into closed session, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I move that the Farmville Town Council convene in closed meeting pursuant to the Code of Virginia in accordance with the provisions of paragraph A.3 of section 2.2-3711. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for the public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held real property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, and paragraph A.5 of section 2.2-3711, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry, or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating and expanding its facilities and in the community.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Clegg, may I roll call, please?
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen, Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
All right, we'll adjourn to a closed session. We'll be back on the other side. Thank you.
Better, yeah, it's better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I'm confused, because I submitted everything as one package, like abandon these and consolidate these ones.
Yes, but we can't do it as one
And the
package.
plat.
So the first thing
plat
is the
says that.
abandonment, the alley abandonment, especially for those parcels on the other side.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
If you wanna go ahead and submit a lot of vacation just
I
for
did.
those, but
That's-
no, that was for the whole subdivision.
Right, so-
If you wanna submit just for those 4 parcels, vacate those lot lines of that 4 parcels, you can do that.
Okay, that was gonna be my question.
I just
If I
thought
did-
that would
Because I
be-
thought this was
Yeah.
like this had to be done first, and then I could come back and ask for this, but if I can do it at the same time.
But if you just wanna vacate those 4 parcels, yes, those 4 lot lines of those parcels, then you can do that. You can submit that tomorrow with the
Okay.
plat from Maxine.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Yeah, because I've got the plat from Maxine, he's already,
But the one that you submitted so far is for all of it. And so you needed to.
yeah, I'll
second
go
one
back
that-
and just do one
So
specifically.
Maxine will have to do one specifically.
So I can't just give you the blown up plat for
It
this
has to
area?
be, no, it has to be one
once again, it still doesn't address.
Because I submitted everything.
Yeah, we
to
did.
vacate these lines and these lines.
No accessibility for the public with that one
Has to be
warehouse.
done first. So that's one here. Now,
Which is the process we're working on.
now you're telling me that I have
You
to,
said it's $75,000.
and I have to request these separately.
Why is that you can't start with?
It's not contiguous, right?
That's gonna be hundreds of thousands.
Well, mainly I'm just saying to do it separately.
Oh, yeah,
because
we have-
you wanna build
we have
it
stuff falling off
now,
the ceiling,
instead of
we-
waiting through the process.
We can't even
No,
put on
I-
apparatus.
for my original
We
request, I
actually
wanted to
bring it
build
down
here
into our
first.
storage warehouse and then
And the
work on
second
apparatus
was up
because the
here.
bays are
And so
not
we
big enough
talked
to handle
about how this would be
our
an
dump
easier
trucks and
area
our
to
fire
build
trucks.
from
Sure.
than this area.
So we don't even have
I don't
accessibility
know
for
what
our
you mean
vehicles. Our
easier.
guys have to work out in the,
This is not on a developed street. So I still will get into whether
Sorry.
You know better. You knew.
Mr. Yolen, will you read us in, please, sir?
I will, sir. Certification of closed meeting. Wait, I don't have to do that part. Whereas the Farmville Town Council has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Farmville Town Council that such closed meetings was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Farmville Town Council hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in a closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. The only such public business matters as were identified by the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Farmville Town Council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Yolen?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this body? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.